Welcome to Muskegon Rising, a community service project of the Muskegon Rotary Club. Our purpose is to create lasting positive change. We've been doing that here since 1916. So, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Kendra Robinson here, and I am so excited for our interview today with Mr. Kamal Sandiford. He is the Clean Slate Program Manager. So, good afternoon to you, Kamal. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kendra.
All right, so we got to get this started. This is an awesome program. I know personally because I've been part of it. But can you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and then how the Clean Slate program started?
Yeah, certainly. So, again, my name is Kamal Sandiford. I am the Clean Slate Program Manager at an organization called Safe and Just Michigan. I've been in that position since 2021. And my primary function is essentially working with local organizations across the state to host what are commonly referred to as expungement fairs or expungement clinics, which essentially involves members of the public coming to a particular venue to be screened by attorneys to see if they're eligible for an expungement, and then they're assisted with the expungement process.
All right, so we're going to break that down a little bit. All right, so are you an attorney?
Yes, I am.
All right, and how long have you been practicing?
10 years.
10 years.
This year, yeah.
Okay. So this program, you said that it's a part of the expungement program. And for those who don't know that term, can you explain what an expungement is?
Certainly. So an expungement in Michigan, at least, is referred to as the removal of a criminal conviction from a person's public record. So you have a non-public record, which the state or law enforcement will still be able to see, even if that conviction is removed from your public record. But essentially, employers, landlords will not be able to see that conviction once it is expunged from your public record.
And that's basically your background check, right?
Essentially, yeah.
So people who are applying for student loans or housing assistance, jobs, this is the record that they receive about who you have been in your past, correct?
Correct.
All right. So can you tell everyone about the criminal offenses that actually could apply to be expunged or removed off your record? Or maybe the list might be a little shorter to say which ones don't.
So I'll say the ones that don't are generally the more serious offenses. Generally you're talking about life offenses like murder, armed robbery, kidnapping. Most CSC or criminal sexual conduct offenses cannot be expunged, period. So that generally leaves everything else that I have mentioned. As you know, as a criminal defense attorney, roughly half of all offenses are traffic offenses.
True. So
that's a big component of in terms of the types of offenses that are generally eligible for expungement. Recently, the legislature allowed for first-time DUI offenses to be expunged, which is huge, as you know, as well.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that a little bit. I think Michigan was kind of the pioneer in this huge expungement move with cleaning people's records. If I can recall, it was probably, was it three years, right after COVID, that the law changed where we only used to allow a certain amount of misdemeanors and certainly an amount of felonies. Can you explain, with the new legislation, how many felonies can be expunged off a person's record and misdemeanors?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the previous law was a lot more restrictive. We used to call it the one felony, two misdemeanor law.
That's it.
But in 2021, the legislature enacted the Clean Slate law, which expanded the expungement petition process to up to 3 felonies, and potentially an unlimited amount of misdemeanor offenses can now be eligible for the petition process. That's certainly a huge change. In addition to that, and this happened last year, the second phase of the Clean Slate law went into effect, which implemented an automated expungement system, which essentially means you don't have to petition to get certain offenses expunged. They are automatically expunged by Michigan State Police and the courts, assuming you meet the statutory criteria.
And it's huge. It's huge. I remember I've helped hundreds of people clear their records, and the process can be daunting for someone who hasn't been before it.
Sure.
There is a fee, right?
Yeah.
A $50 fee for the state of Michigan to do a background check. But essentially, they're opening up their case again to have the court review it. But a lot of people don't go through with it.
Yeah.
And so for the state to automatically take records off people's records, it's a great freedom for them to be able to now clear their own records without having to go through the process. Can you share with us a little bit about how the process works?
Yeah. So, I'll walk you through a run-of-the-mill expungement fair.
All right, let's do it.
So, an attendee comes in. We normally run their iChat or background check. That's the first step.
Okay.
So it means getting basic information on that person: name, date of birth, race, gender. That's then submitted to Michigan State Police, and then a report is generated, which we refer to as the iChat. It is then reviewed by an attorney to see if that person is eligible under the law for an expungement.
And when you say eligible, that means they're criminal offenses if they fit.
Right,
okay.
Correct, yeah. And then if they are eligible for an expungement, that individual, the attorney assists that individual with filling out the appropriate paperwork. And then at the fair as well, they get fingerprinted. That's another step, as you know, that the person has to get done.
Right.
The application is notarized. There are certain things that we can't do at a fair. So certified records of conviction. So one of the components or one of the main things that a person has to do before they can file is actually get a certified record of each conviction that they're applying for expungement. And that often means actually going to the court.
And so let's be clear with this.
Yeah.
For everyone who is trying to apply to get their record clean, they have to apply or at least request their record from the court they were convicted in.
Correct.
Okay, so if they were in Manistee, they got to go back to Manistee.
Yeah.
If they were in Wayne County, they have to go back to Wayne County. Same thing with Muskegon or anywhere else. They have to go back to that court.
Correct.
Okay.
And they have to go back to that court to get the certified records anyway, but they also have to go to file in that court.
To have their hearing.
To have their hearing. Once they file the appropriate paperwork, they also have to mail a copy to the Attorney General's office, a copy of their paperwork to the Michigan State Police, along with their fingerprints and the $50 money order that you mentioned earlier. And another thing about that, as you know, it's $50 per application. So, what we often see, especially in big counties, so like we do a lot of fairs in Wayne County, and, they have 20 district courts,
So wait a minute. I didn't know it was actually a $50 fee per request, because we were just I thought we only set like $50 in for all the applications with that $150.
No, it's per court. Oh. Yeah. So
okay, I learned something new today. Okay.
I think like in a smaller county where there's only one circuit, one district court,
understand.
It might, you probably could get away with just doing one $50 money order, because generally speaking, people in that county would only have been convicted in that particular court. But in a county like Wayne County, where they have so many district courts, we often see people with 6 or 7 misdemeanors in different courts, which means 6 or 7 applications, which means
to every single court,
which means you can rack up a considerable amount of fees.
So let's talk about why the program is so helpful, because I've been part of quite a few of them for several years now. The convenience and the help with assisting with the fees of getting certain things done that you need this process to go through smoothly. Can you tell us all the resources that are available at a fair?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, traditionally a lot of people haven't even tried to engage this process because it's overwhelming. It's daunting because they have to apply, they have to potentially go back in front of the same judge, everything. And so naturally that there's a reluctancy on the part of the public to not necessarily pursue this. And that's why these types of fairs are so beneficial, because essentially we try to have them as almost like a one-stop shop.
Oh, yes.
Where they can essentially get everything. And all they have to do is to then
go get their record and
go get their certified record of conviction, and file the appropriate paperwork and get their hearing date.
So let's talk about the hearing date. What's the average wait time from the date of the application, sending it off, and the actual hearing where they get to go in front of a judge?
So I'll say it varies from court to court. I would say, generally speaking, 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Some courts will schedule a date right away. So when the person files the application, they'll schedule a hearing date for, January 5th, 2025.
Just estimating out.
Yeah. Or some courts will wait on the response from the, so when that person submits their paperwork to the Attorney General's office in Michigan State Police, there's a response that's sent back to the court, basically indicating whether or not that person is in fact eligible for expungement. And so what we see is some courts will wait to get that response from the courts, from Michigan State Police and the Attorney General's office before issuing a hearing date. I think Kent County does that. So
they'll get their paperwork first and then give you a date afterwards. No adjournments needed here.
So, yeah.
One thing I did forget to ask, Kamal, can you share about the one bad day rule? Because somebody might be listening who remembers 10 years ago or 12 years ago when they had, multiple convictions in a short period of time, which essentially will leave them ineligible for those 3 felony cap for expungements. But can you share what the one day rule means when it comes to expungements?
Yeah. The 1 by night rule is essentially a loophole or an exception to the 3 felony rule that you mentioned. So under this new law, a person with more than three felony offenses is generally ineligible for expungement of anything, unless they fall within that 1 by night exception. In order to qualify, the offenses would have had to have occurred or arose from the same incident, and they would have to have occurred within 24 hours of each other. The offenses, though, cannot be assaultive in nature. They cannot be punishable by more than 10 years. Right. They can't involve a dangerous weapon in order to potentially qualify for the 1 bad night exception. The example that I use is somebody steals a credit card and then they go on a shopping spree that same day.
Multiple different stores. Multiple different charges. Yeah.
They pick up like 4 or 5 illegal use of a financial transaction device. Potentially that's something where that could be counted as one offense.
Absolutely.
As opposed to getting into some type of bar fight and picking up 6 felonious assaults.
Correct.
Which is extreme.
But it happens.
But yeah,
it happens. I've had clients before who had several deliver and manufacturings in one night.
Right.
And because they already had 2 prior felonies, that could have been 5 felonies total. But with the 1 bad night, they were now eligible, and their records have been thankfully cleared. So, can you tell us what, in your personal experience, you have seen as the result of the work and time and this of some success stories of what the Clean Slate brings to people who are now able to see their life in a different light?
Yeah. So I'll say even before the law went into effect in 2021, there were 2 University of Michigan professors, Sonia Prescott and JJ Prescott and Sonia Starr.
Okay.
They did some research into the effect of an expungement, and they found that within the first year, a person's income can increase as much as 23%.
Wow.
Just by getting an expungement. So that in and of itself kind of shows you the significance of just getting that conviction removed from a person's record. I know that since the law has gone into effect, and even prior to even under the old law, as someone practicing, assisting people, we would hear firsthand from clients how it had impacted their lives in terms of getting better housing, obviously getting better paying jobs, or even simple things like being able to go on field trips
with their children.
Wow. So yeah.
One story I was shared with one time, come out by someone who had just recently had got theirs expunged. They hadn't applied for any jobs yet. They hadn't done anything with housing, but they said, you know what? I finally feel like my record reflects how I feel in my life. I'm not that person anymore. It does something to them mentally, a self-worth increase. And I think that's just awesome. Anything specific you can share with everyone about how they can find out about the Clean Slate program, when the next expungement fair is? Where are they in the state?
Yeah. So, we try to travel around the state, or we go where we're needed. And it often involves local organizations reaching out to us saying, hey, we've heard about you guys doing these events across the state. We'd like to bring one to our community. So as you know, we work closely with Guns over here in Muskegon. But we've partnered with the Attorney General's office, and they've been a great help in terms of increasing our capacity to have these events.
Okay.
So every time a fair is scheduled, it's posted on their website.
And what's that website?
The Michigan Attorney General's office, expungement assistance. I think that's the what's it called? The tab that you would click on.
The Michigan Attorney General's office.
Yeah, and you click on expungement assistance. And then they have a list of fairs, of upcoming fairs.
Okay. When is the next one here in Muskegon?
The next one will be October 10th from 11 to 3 p.m.
And located where?
95 Broadway.
West
Broadway.
All right, October 10th.
And that's with the organization I mentioned, Guns. And we've consistently worked with them throughout the years, as you know, hosting these fairs.
How many people would you guess have gone through this program?
So I know last year alone, we screened about 4,000 people. And, those are people that have pre-registered, people that attend the fair. So
and
it was
people are available.
Amount.
People are able to walk in.
Yeah. We certainly recognize that you're gonna get walk-ins, as you know.
They definitely come.
So yeah, we certainly try to cater for walk-ins. Ideally, we want people to pre-register, but we recognize that isn't always feasible for some people. So yeah.
Thank you, Kamal.
Yeah.
And thank you all for joining us today on Muskegon Rising.